OnePlus 10 Pro and the Xiaomi 12 Pro. These are two very similar flagship phones, both running Android 12, both have the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset. The rest of the spec sheet is very similar. I'm not going to read it out here, so let's just dive in and get to the bottom of which one of these phones here is the best at what and why.
Firstly, I'm going to go over the design and our build quality of both of these. Now, they do have very similar specs and the screens on them. So we've got a 6.7-inch screen here with the Xiaomi, and then we have a 6.7. Okay, so that's just 0.03 of an inch difference. So when you look at them, they really are very similar here. Now, it depends on your personal preference here with the cutout, the hole punch here, either in the middle, which I do prefer, slightly smaller than what we've got on the OnePlus 10 Pro. That one is 32 megapixels, this one's 32 megapixels as well. And the screens, I'll get onto them in detail soon, but they're both LTPO, but we've got LTPO2 with the OnePlus, which is here on the right. So always keep the OnePlus on the right, make things easy. And just to point out, both of these have 8 gigabytes of RAM and both have 128 gigabytes of UFS 3.1 storage. Both of them have Android 12 on them, and they both have 1440p or Quad HD Plus screens. So fingerprint readers, in-screen ones, optical. Let's test them both out. All right, so which was quicker there? I think probably the OnePlus 10 Pro. I do that again. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, animation's definitely better. And when I get onto the UI, I'll talk about that too. But things do seem a little bit quicker there in that regard on the OnePlus 10 Pro. Now they have Gorilla Glass Victus on them, curved screens on both, curved on the back too with them. And I'll get onto that shortly. But down here, Type-C ports, a big difference. With the OnePlus 10 Pro, we get USB 3.1, and it does have clone display, so display out support. Not only that, the transfer speeds absolutely slaughter the Xiaomi 12 Pro. They're so much quicker. So we've got microphones and our SIM trays, both of them do hold 2 nano SIMs. Now with the import version of the 12 Pro here, it does not have LTE band 20. The OnePlus 10 5G does. The OnePlus 10 Pro, sorry, does there. And the loudspeakers down here. So Harman Kardon tuned loudspeaker on the Xiaomi versus just, well, speakers. I don't think there are any fancy branding behind them that's doing the tuning. It's Oppo, or should I say OnePlus, that are doing that there. And up the top here, secondary microphones, antenna lines. Bit of a squared off top on the OnePlus 10 Pro, where it's rounded, and metal frames on both of them. In hand, they feel really good. And then the rear of them here, I do like the look of both of them, especially the finish here with the Gorilla Glass Victus. As mentioned before, it's curved, you can see that. Now they both have a bit of a shimmer to them, like a silky look more on the OnePlus 10 Pro. This black matte that I really do like, the look of it. But the camera module, I'm going to have to say, looks better on the Xiaomi 12 Pro. Of course, this is all subjective, personal preference here. Which one do you think looks the better, the back of them? I like the more subdued, more subtle look of the Xiaomi 12 Pro. But I think the finish here, the black, does look a little bit nicer, and the way it just shimmers in certain angles a little bit more on the OnePlus 10 Pro. I do like that as well. So I'd almost give them a tie here for build quality and just the looks and the aesthetics of the back of them. I think is good on both. So there is wireless charging support on both of these, and they both are 50 watts. Now, it will take about 42 minutes with the Xiaomi to wirelessly charge at the 50 watts, and it's around about 50 or so with the OnePlus 10 Pro because it has a slightly larger battery, which is 5,000 milliamp hours versus 4,600. And then cameras. So without just reading spec sheets here all day, we do have 48 megapixel main camera, 50, and then 50 and 50. So the Xiaomi has an ultra wide that's 50, a 2x it's 50. Then the OnePlus 10 Pro, its zoom camera, which is a 8 megapixel one. That one is 3x or 3.3 times optical versus 2x optical on the Xiaomi, but the resolution really means it's not actually that much better when you crop in. And in the ultra wide, so we've got 50 megapixel versus 50 megapixel ultra wide. Now I've done a camera comparison on both of these, so I do recommend you check out that video if you're interested to see which one has the more potent or better cameras. I gave the Xiaomi the win for the rare stills and for the video performance. However, its audio was not that good. The OnePlus had better audio. Front-facing cameras on both of them, they were terrible when it came to vlog footage and selfies overexposing on the Xiaomi. Both of them really do have a lot of work when it comes to the camera performance. I found optimization just isn't there on both of these yet, which is a true disappointment. I think last gen flagships from both of these brands were better. Now our displays, so we do have that variable refresh rate on them that they can save a bit of battery because it can chop it right down. So 120 Hz, 120 Hz, QHD plus resolution on both of them curved. They are both fantastic top tier screens, but I do have a bit of a complaint with both of them. They both do not seem to freely have DC dimming available. It's hidden away in developer settings on the Xiaomi, and with the OnePlus, I don't think it's there. It's not there in the normal display settings anyway. But you'll see right now there's a bit of banding coming through on both, but you can see a little bit more on the Xiaomi. Now, for some reason, the leaves here, should I say the pedals, look a little bit brighter than what we're seeing with the OnePlus 10 Pro. And I don't know why that is. That's just the optimization of both of them, which have kept them both on standard. It's just the way it's doing it. I both calibrated these screens to be at the same exact brightness, and it's just the way it's pulling through. So they are really good screens. You can't go wrong with them. It's just that banding, that flicker that I'm noticing a little more, but really only on camera. I just wish the DC dimming option was there for both. So the touch response on both of them is excellent. I would really call them about a draw there. Now, what about maximum brightness? The Xiaomi does pull ahead, I have found, and is a slightly brighter screen. But if you're going to base your decision on these displays, you really cannot go wrong with either of these. They're good displays. It's just if you are someone that's very sensitive to pulse width modulation flicker on OLED or AMOLED screens, I think you're going to have maybe a little bit more of a problem with the Xiaomi 12 Pro's banding, as you're seeing coming through. You can see again a little bit of banding there too with the OnePlus 10 Pro. Really, the last gen screens we had were just as good, and you can't tell the difference between this screen and then the last gen ones. I don't think you can, not to the naked eye. UI performance. So this is something to me that is way more important than your synthetic benchmarks. Now, synthetic benchmarks are great just to look at and compare things side by side, and I'll get onto that soon. But in general, ROM performance. So we've got Android 12 on both, as mentioned. Then we have ColorOS 12. So bye-bye Oxygen OS. There's no point crying about Oxygen OS, all right? It's gone for good. However, some of the good things, a lot of them, have pulled through into ColorOS 12. Now, I'm not working for Oppo or anything like that. It's just a fact, all right? We still get very good animation speeds. Now, both of them set to stock, no developer options, no tweaks, nothing like that, out-of-the-box settings, all right, when it comes to all of this stuff. So it's fair here. The Xiaomi has just slower animations. I've noticed some real stability problems with the Xiaomi 12 Pro. It's crashed on me many times. The launch is frozen up. I've seen some amazing lag in the launcher at times. Camera's crashed. Now, ColorOS 12 on the OnePlus 10 Pro so far is the most stable Android 12 ROM that I've tested, and it's still, I wouldn't call it bug-free either, okay? They've both got their little issues, but by far, MIUI 13 has a lot more bugs and things going on. It seems a heavier OS in general. Performance just doesn't quite feel as good. If I jump into the settings here on both of them, you might be able to notice that, okay, they didn't come up at the same time, but it doesn't matter. It just feels the scrolling here too, that it's a little bit better, and just launching and getting into the different settings, I feel, on definitely ColorOS 12. So when it comes to software, fluidity, UI performance, I've got to give the OnePlus 10 Pro a clear and definite win there. And still on that topic, really, of the UI performance, Google Apps on the OnePlus 10 just scroll a hell of a lot better. See that terrible judder and the lag that we're seeing here on the Xiaomi? Let's do that again. Look how smooth things are on the OnePlus 10 Pro. The software so far, especially the Google Apps, is just terrible on that Xiaomi, as I was talking about just before. But there you can clearly see it. I don't need to use slow-mo or anything fancy like that. You can clearly see, look at that scrolling performance on the OnePlus 10 Pro. looks great, and it's just a choppy, terrible mess. So why am I in YouTube here? Well, I should be getting into it right now. That's because I want to just show you a clip with some audio, and we'll listen to the dual loudspeakers on both of these, which one's the best. So that was interesting. The OnePlus 10 Pro is the loudest there, but it distorts a little the bass and doesn't sound really the clearest. I think the overall quality sound is definitely coming from those hardened Carbon tune speakers in the Xiaomi 12 Pro, and that's really no surprise to me. Now it's time for the test that probably Qualcomm doesn't want people to run on their phones, or the brands either. They're probably like, don't do it, it's not realistic. Wildlife stress test for 20 minutes, how's that realistic? Well, it kind of is, and it isn't. All right, so if you were gaming for 20 minutes in a very demanding game like Genshin Impact, then this is going to be simulating basically that GPU workload on it. So what I will do is run this test now. We'll see hopefully that both of these phones can complete it without overheating, first off, and then once it's done, we'll see the throttling results, and then I'll check on the thermals. But both of these, just to point out now before I run the test, both of them disappointing. This new chipset is a bit of a throttling mess. It's a hot chip. It's very much like the Snapdragon 810 days all over again. So here we go, start on both at the same time. I'm just gonna let it run now for 20 minutes, and then we'll check on the results. 17 minutes into the test now, and the Xiaomi has, well, there we go. It has just closed and opted not to finish the test at all. It is at currently 46 degrees, where the OnePlus 10 Pro continues on with the benchmark and doesn't seem to have any problems yet. It's only about 35 degrees, at least this screen, and that Xiaomi getting very hot there. It's still about 47 degrees, but starting to cool down. So it's booted me out. Now, if that was a game like PUBG or Genshin Impact, you'd get that message right now that we are looking at overheating, and you'd lose the game, of course. So that's completely unacceptable to me. We'll check now and see the end result of what the OnePlus 10 Pro is going to get and how much it throttled. And there we go. The test is finishing up on the OnePlus 10 Pro. We'll take a look at the result. So we'll see how much it has throttled, and I'll check on those temperatures. It does feel quite hot, the top of it. So it did end up, stability-wise, getting down to 62%. Wow, so that means it has throttled quite a lot. That's a huge amount when you look at the lowest score here. So really disappointing results here from that Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. It should be so much better than this. This really is truly like last gen results, especially the lowest score there. Wow. Okay, let's have a look at the thermals now. Using my thermal imaging camera, we'll take a look at the back of it. So how warm is it? Okay, it's getting up to 40 degrees. So in order to keep those thermals in check with the latest patch, they have certainly throttled the hell out of that new chip, as you've just seen from that. And I'll flip it over again, and we will take a look at the front of it. So the front of the screen there up to, okay, we're near the top, about 39 degrees. Those are acceptable temperatures on the OnePlus 10 Pro. What is not acceptable is, of course, the Xiaomi 12 Pro DNF did not finish, died, crashed and burned after just 17 minutes of the stress test. And our benchmark. So charging time, we've got 120 watts, 21 minutes to go from 11% to 100, 7% to 100% here on the OnePlus 10 Pro at 80 watts, took 32 minutes. So it's good on both of them, okay? Just ignore this. It glitched out for some reason. I don't know why. It does that sometimes. And here our Antutu score. So both of them, fantastic. A little bit faster on the OnePlus 10 Pro, but really it means absolutely no difference when we get on to real-world kind of use. Look at the temperature difference, though, from the test. So we lost 8% battery here. We only lost 6, and the temperature went up a whopping almost 14 degrees versus 9 degrees, which is still quite a bit. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 is a disappointing chip for me. CPU-wise, we've gained basically nothing. The GPU is, yes, a lot faster for short bursts, but long-term, it gets really hot. It's a hot chip, and Qualcomm, I think they are just pretty much like, well, like Intel, aren't they? I'm waiting for that Dimensity 9000 from MediaTek. So here we have wildlife scores, and you can see very close again, not really that much in it. 2 frames per second more on average, just over on the OnePlus 10 Pro. I mean, that's nothing, okay? And storage, internal storage, UFS 3.1 versus 3.1 versus the same capacity too, okay, on both of them. Similar kind of speeds, and really I wouldn't worry about any of these benchmarks at all for these kind of things. It's really pointless because they are both very fast and none of these are going to cause any bottlenecks or issues. So there's a big difference here for some reason with Geekbench. I'm not too sure why that was. I did let both of these phones cool down before I ran the test, okay? So I don't know what happened there. Who knows? It's random. Sometimes it's a bit higher, sometimes it's a bit lower. GPS on both running the same chipset, so as expected, pretty similar there. They see about the same amount of satellites, and there's a difference of 6 on there, but again, really minimal differences. So battery life, the fixed benchmark that I run is 200 nits on both of the displays, and it goes till it gets to 20% battery. What happened is, and it kept happening over and over again, for some reason the OnePlus 10 Pro didn't want to run PC Mark, okay, so it just kept stopping. However, I at least got this result here when it got down to 20% battery. 22%. 10 hours and 21 minutes on screen time versus 8 hours. Now, they're both set to the highest resolution, okay, and 120 hertz. So there's a huge difference there in battery life. Now, that is to do with ROM optimization. Now, I can tell you realistically, this is a benchmark that, of course, is just a looping benchmark. But realistic, real-world use, around 7 hours of on-screen time versus about 8.5, maybe. I mean, that's even pushing it. You're probably looking at about 7.5, 6.5. Okay, they're pretty poor, both of them, and you will have to charge these at the end of the day. Both have Widevine Level 1 cert, so Netflix and Full HD, that's great. Amazon Prime Video, no. Both of them not supported at all.
So the final verdict here, which one of these should you buy? I'm going to have to say neither. They really are in, for a better word, in a bit of a hell of a state, really, I think, for new 2020 releases. If this is what we're going to have this year when it comes to new flagships, wow, it's going to be a very disappointing year and hard for everyone. So I don't see any genuine reason to upgrade to these models so far, okay? So far. Things can change. Software can update. They can fix the bugs. I'm talking about their current state here, okay? Don't get me wrong. Both of these models feel very unpolished. And then, don't get me started on that Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. I know some of the big boys out there will post these massive hype videos and tell you how amazing it is. Go and get it. You want to get the latest and greatest, the new Snapdragon, the new Qualcomm chip. Well, of course they are. They got flown to Hawaii. And then with some of these brand products, they are probably also going to come out and say the same thing, that it's a huge upgrade. You want to get it. Even if you've got the last gen model, go and get it because it's great. Because they got the phones from the brands for free, and that didn't happen here with what I've got. It's turning into a bit of a rant here, but I just got to get it out that why would you upgrade here? Take a look at these phones. Come on. Compared to the previous gen, we are not gaining really anything. On the spec sheets, yes, you look at it and go, they're comparing Antutu scores to Antutu scores. Wow, one's slightly higher, but real world performance, once these get hot or overheat, beat you out of a game, beat you out of a benchmark, really, that's even worse, that you can't play like a demanding game like Genshin Impact for more than about 20 minutes, 25 minutes on the highest possible settings before that happens. So completely unacceptable, really, from Qualcomm, what is going on here. They're like the new Intel. And it seems to me these brands have decided to become complacent. They've gone, hey, it's working for Apple. It's working maybe for Samsung, well, or it was working. Just incremental releases. Our fan base is that big that we can just, tweak it a little bit. New chipset, slightly better screen, maybe slightly better camera. They're gonna buy it. Everyone's gonna rush out and buy it because it's the latest and greatest. Wrong. Big mistake there. I think that the sales are going to take a bit of a hit. I think this year is definitely going to be a wake-up call for these brands that they can't just continue, they can't change their direction. Both of these brands were well known in the past. That's how they built themselves, for being flagship killers, even though I really hate that term, for being value champs, for offering so much more than the other brands for less, for innovation, for bringing us new things. But it seems that they just became so complacent now with these new models and went, incremental updates, that'll do, rush it out. We're the first to have the new gen chipset, even though both of the phones are in a hell of a state. Camera-wise, a mess. I mean, we still have with the Xiaomi, it doesn't have any video out, at least the OnePlus does. Then the front-facing camera still doesn't have 4K. This one doesn't have 4K. No electronic image stabilization. Just stability issues with the software with MIUI 13. Don't get me started on that either. This crashes once a day on me. It's not good. This is where some things are good. Okay, we lost Oxygen OS, and that's a terrible loss. I really did like it. It was my favorite Android operating system skin UI. It's gone now, so it's ColorOS 12. But ColorOS, where I can give it some praise where due, it's definitely a lot more stable than MIUI 13. It's faster, the performance is just generally better there. So that's good, but they've lost their path now, of course, their way. OnePlus, both of them have true disappointment. I would stick with your previous gen. Keep your OnePlus 9 Pro. Keep your Xiaomi 11 Pro. Keep your Xiaomi 11. Keep your Xiaomi 11 Ultra. You're really not gaining anything. If you buy these phones, trust me, if you're really into your tech, you're going to feel a bit of buyer's remorse. And then the pricing of both of them is creeping right up. Again, this is where I feel they're copying the plans of Apple. They're going, okay, incremental updates, our fan base is there, they'll buy them, we can price it high, it's not working. I don't think it's working. Anyway, this comparison turned into a rant, and I do apologize for that, but I had to get it out that there's a lot of things that just aren't going the way they should in 2022. When it comes to these new flagship models, it's just not happening. I'm not liking at all what I'm seeing here. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you did like this comparison rant video, and I'll see you in the next one.